Hey everybody, welcome back. When we last left off, we had just finished up getting the 7th crystal and beating most of Cumulo Keep, which is the optional area. And the sewers. We went through a big portion of that as well. But before we continue on, we got all of this money here, and I'd like to go spend it. So we're going to go back to Cumulo Keep and see if we can beat the guy there. Because once we do, we'll be able to spend a lot of money. Okay, so let's give yellow some high defense. We'll give red the fighter band. The thing to know about the boss of Cumulo Keep is that he has really high defenses, and his whole thing is that he heals every single time you attack him. But he has relatively low HP to compensate. So the gimmick, the shtick of the battle, is that it's essentially a war of attrition. Can you last long enough that he uses up all of his FP while you're still alive? Because once he runs out of FP, he's helpless, and you could beat him. Alright. Let's fight for that discount. And he is immune to poison, remember that. So every attack, no matter how small, he heals from. So there's really no point in doing any attacks that are necessarily more heavy hitting than others, because he's just going to heal from them anyway. So every attack, whether it's 1 damage or 100 damage, it all comes out to be the same. It's another few FP wasted on him healing himself. When I was making this game, I tried to come up with fun gimmicks for some of the boss fights. So while I was making this guy, I thought, what's something that hasn't really been done before? At least not in the original game. What about somebody who actually heals himself when you attack him? So there you go. Koopa doesn't deal particularly heavy damage to this guy, but he does have a heal spell, so that's why I chose him. Again, we're just trying to outlast this guy, so the more healers we have, the better. This fight can be a bit tedious, a bit repetitive, just whittling down his FP meter, but hey, he's supposed to be an optional endgame type boss, so that's the price you pay for the best equipment. even when he uses Shredder and Boulder. It's not a bad thing, because those also cost FP. Turns out we're running out of FP from healing ourselves too. Alright, there we go. Now we're in business. Let's see, are you immune to magic? I know you're immune to shell. Are you immune to other elements too? No, perfect. Alright, we got him on the ropes now. Nice. Perfect. Alright, we do have a full inventory of equipment, so before we go on a shopping spree here, let's buy something and make some room. Sure, could always use one of these. Maybe want to keep that on, and nah. Cooper probably wants to keep the mage armor, but we'll still buy his hero shell just in case we ever need to switch things around. Get rid of some of this old stuff. also buy these weapons. So Yellow, being the more defense-oriented character on the team, I was concerned that in some battles you might not have much to do with him, because if the enemy is not particularly difficult, they don't hit particularly hard, then you don't need a defensive character on your team. So I was concerned about that being a bit of a waste, having him on your team. So, to give him a little something extra to do, I created these Y weapons, and each one of these Y weapons does different elemental damage. And Yellow is the only character in the game whose weapons do elemental damage. Just if you're ever up against a particularly difficult foe, but you know that they're weak against a certain element, you can use that element on them. Gives Yellow a little extra edge there that none of the other characters get. But with that, we have officially beaten Cumulo Keep. It's still one of the best places to buy battle items, though, so we'll probably be back at some point, just to buy stuff. Okay, before we do any more of the optional content, we're gonna go into the sewers, and I'll show you guys the final level of the game. At this point, all of the hunts are unlocked, or at least they can be unlocked. Like I said before, you unlock hunts one of two ways. One, by progressing in the story, and two, by beating the hunts that are already available to you. We've already gotten as far as the story needs to go to unlock hunts, so every other hunt is either there, available for us, or will be once we beat the underlying hunts. But those hunts are about as difficult as the game gets, because they're the later hunts. So I'd rather show you guys beating the last level, or at least getting close to beating the last level, before we take on the stuff that's harder than the last level. Doing some acrobatics here. Alright, now that we beat the ghost house, this guy fades away. Now actually this chest does have a mushroom in it, so let's make the most of it. Go beat a couple enemies first. Yeah, good enough. Time for our third and final round against this guy, Rakasib. And just to, again, answer a question I answered in the comments to one of my videos, Rakasib does not mean anything. I made it up. I've never been good at super jumps. Yeah, we got a full inventory. Why not? I may have mentioned this on an earlier video, but for most of the spells in this game, I rearranged who learns what spell, and different spells have different timing multiplier bonuses depending on who's using the spell. So in the original game, for example, Geno's spells, Geno Beam, just for an example, if you did the best possible timing on it, it would multiply its damage done by 2. As opposed to someone like Bowser, if you time Crusher correctly with the best timing, it multiplies it by, I think, 1.5, something like that. That's the max multiplier. So I had to adjust some of the spells to accommodate that. Basically, I tried to make it so every spell would do similar base damage to whatever magic power it says it uses in the special menu, versus how powerful it could be if you timed it the best. The only exception to that, really, is Koopa's Magic Shell, which overwrote Super Jump. For posterity's sake, you can still do 100 Super Jumps in this game. Alright, so where we're going next, we want to make sure we have an open inventory slot for flower drops. And we finally found it. Shadoo's Castle. Alright, now let's see how we're doing. We want to make sure the team is healed up. There you go. We made it. These two jokers again. Now, I designed part of the castle loosely after Princess Peach's castle from Super Mario 64, like I said, very loosely. So you'll notice this first level here has, what, 7 or 8 different doors? Just like the first room of Peach's Castle in 64. And then it's got a top floor, and then it's got a basement. So the gimmick of this particular area is that each of the 5 members of your team have a one-on-one fight that they have to do. So first one's green, but let's check before, because we don't have a way of healing green, because he doesn't have any healing magic. Yeah, whatever. I'm sure he'll be fine. He's a tough guy. Give it a shot. And each one of these fights drops a flower tab. So you want to make sure you have an empty slot in your inventory for each of these fights. That was one of my favorite attacks to animate. Green's melee attack. I tried to give each of the clones attacks loosely based on the Koopa that you're fighting. So this green clone does a lot of physical attacks, like green does. And unfortunately, there is no enemy use version of Psychopath, because if there was, I would have had this clone use it. Everyone gets 100 experience for defeating their evil twin. The suspension of disbelief here in this level is that each character is fighting their clone at the same time. So even though you come back to control red after each fight, just do me a favor and pretend that you don't. Fortunately, this guy can be poisoned. Just like Yellow himself, this guy has high defense, so poison is very helpful here. At this point, we've got such good equipment and such that this guy can't really do that much damage to Yellow. One of the pitfalls of doing some of the side content early, but, you know, that's what you get when you do a developer playthrough where I'm trying to show you everything. There's 2 down. This guy is immune to shell, by the way. It didn't seem sporting to use Red's signature move against Red, so I made him immune to it. Alright. We've got good equipment, but this guy still does respectable damage. More or less. Alright, before we continue, we'll save just for good measure. Black is another, I don't know if I'd say tough, but maybe dangerous one, I guess? Just because black doesn't have any healing magic. We didn't bother to buy any ultra shrooms. When am I ever going to use this again? I mean, I guess I could use one of these, but do I really want to? Let's kill him. I just scared there for a second, didn't I? Now, I can't remember if he's immune to this or not. We'll find out. The Koopa clone himself actually has pretty high magic defense. But Cooper's magic attack is so high that it doesn't really matter. And there we go, that's all 5 down. Alright, now that we beat all 5, the way forward is open. But one of the issues with having these one-on-one fights is in order to make them work, I had to temporarily take everybody out of the party except the one person that's fighting that fight. So, after each one of those, you gotta rearrange your party. Alright, that unlocked the top floor here, but before we go through that door, I want to show you this one over here. This is a shortcut to Mario's pad, through the hole in the floor, and if you investigate his light, you get a frog coin. So now that we've unlocked that door, we have a shortcut back to Shadoo's Castle from Mario's pad. Just jump down the hole. Yeah, that guy kind of sneaks up on you. It's alright. Gonna need to get a few more levels anyway, eventually, if we're going to take on some of the tough stuff in this game. That's what I get for forgetting what they're immune to and what they're not. Enemies are hitting harder and harder. Getting close to that 99 flowers. This is that room where Cooper stole the crystal from the bad guys. The very beginning of the game. Well, not the beginning. This was more toward the middle. Wow, that was pretty good. This guy should be just about down. The addition of this guy, X, as one of the bad guy's lackeys was a kind of a late addition into the game. And there's actually a reference to that later on, where you end up fighting Hex alongside with Shadoo's other two lackeys, Cleamander and Allie. And Hex makes a comment about, "You guys have been a pain in my side for too long." And Allie says, "What do you mean? You just met them yesterday." Now, fun fact, Colorado is in fact still in his cell up here, but he is totally optional. If you don't feel like rescuing him, you don't have to. Although, if you don't, you'll miss the chest in here. I don't think I really need the honey syrup in my inventory. That chest has a mushroom in it. Again, I like to make the most of it. So let's fight some fights before we grab it. I know these guys are immune to something. I never remember what. I made like 200 enemies, guys. I can't remember what each one is weak to. Well, it's not that. See if this does anything. Oh, they're immune to that too. Man, what was I thinking? Alright, that works, but it didn't do that much. Oh well, this is still probably our best bet. Alright, found the right face, so that opens the way forward for us. Okay, so that our goal is to go up this door, but it's locked. In order to unlock it, we have to push this chunky Yoshi statue here on this button, because we aren't heavy enough for it. But the statue is too heavy to move. But it's connected to this room over here, and if you press the A button while walking into this Yoshi statue, it'll move. And don't worry, if you get it stuck against the wall, you can just go out of the room and come back. But we move the little statue on here, and the big statue moves in the same way. So it pressed the button, and now the top is unlocked. But before we do that, we'll find another few fights, because I know that there is another mushroom right up ahead. Don't gamble, guys. Unless, you know, you're manipulating the RNG or something. Then go for it. I have a plan. Speed some of this up a little bit. Let's see, are you guys weak against lightning? You sure are. And one more. Alright, let's keep going. Free Yoshi Cola. Don't think we need all these bracers. Bring back Yellow. Yellow is basically unkillable at this point, so call him the insurance policy. We get to fight these chumps again, but this time, together. Might as well use these. Now, both of these guys do counterattack sometimes, so it's best to take them one-on-one if you can. Well, not one-on-one, but one at a time. And as you can see, they did virtually nothing to Yellow, but even with a bracer, Cleamander did quite a lot to Koopa. So just because we've got some endgame equipment, doesn't mean we're invincible. I don't know. What do you do when he does so little damage? Or he sometimes even misses. For good measure. You'll notice that the group hug heal, it doesn't heal as much as it did in the original game, and it also doesn't heal status effects. I mean, come on. In the original game, it did all of that for only 4 FP. It was kind of a win button. And I wanted there to be a bit more of a challenge in the game. I didn't want it to be annoyingly difficult, but I wanted it to be... I didn't want it to just be, you put your healer on a team and then you win, always, no matter what. That's kind of what the original felt like. As I was making this game and designing these characters, I kind of thought to myself, what would be Cleamander and Allie's motivation for working with Shadoo? Why would anyone willingly work with someone who's trying to, you know, take over the world or destroy it or whatever it might be? And then I thought, you know what? It's a game. Not everything needs an explanation. A lot of stories involve a bad guy who has minions that just kind of work for him because they do. There's no real rhyme or reason behind it. Not everybody needs a backstory. Not everybody needs lore. So just let it be. Alright, I was avoiding doing this, but I guess I'll do this. A waste of maple syrup. Oh, woe is me. There we go, another one down. And green is the one we don't care about magic. Alright, now that these doofuses are out of the way, that means the basement door is unlocked, and all that's left to fight is the big man himself, Shadoo. Man, how did I make those guys sneak up on you like? No way. Here we go, this door's unlocked. Don't really feel like fighting these guys. So let's get out of here. Frog coin over here, gotta do some acrobatics. Oh man. Yeah, some of these guys are pretty tough at the end game. But again, it's the end game, so they're supposed to be. Alright, here we go. Got a mushroom, got a Yoshi Cola, and our save point. Alright, time to go fight the big man himself. That's why the music is ominously gone. Let's see how we doing. We'll probably be okay with what we have. Equipment-wise, too. That's fine. Alright, I'll be honest with you guys. This is a two-phase thing. We gotta beat him here, and then there's another final boss fight after we beat him here. So this is not the end. And here, Shadoo is explaining his big plan. Yada yada yada, destruction, doom, etc. So now we get to fight the shapeshifter himself. He uses Mario's signature hammers. Right, Kamek is magic-based, so we'll use physical attacks on him. Except for maybe Cooper, just because Cooper's physical attack is so weak that there's not really a point to using it. Bowser, of course, being a physical-oriented character, has high physical defense and attack, but he's also immune to shell. After all, he's got a spiky shell of his own. There was no way to get... So Shadoo has 6 forms here. There was no way to get all 6 forms into one fight, even though they only appear one at a time. It's just the graphics engine, for whatever reason, it has to consider all 6, even if not all 6 are on screen at the same time. So I had to split it up into 2 fights. That's why you saw the Once you beat Bowser, the screen fades out and then fades back in. Having 2 stages to this fight has the added effect of, not only did it make it so we were no longer under fear status, but it also makes our bracer wear off. So now we don't have that defense boost. Evil Shell. And that does a lot of damage. Yellow, our defensive character, almost died. Don't mess with the Ninja Koopas. This should be the last one. Thankfully, she's being kind of nice and not using her super strong magic attacks. But who knows when that'll change. Nice. Shadoo is down. Alright, there's only one enemy left, and it's final boss. But before we do that, we've got plenty of optional content that we need to do, but that'll have to wait for another time. We might be getting to the end of the story, but I can see at least another, call it 2 or 3 videos based on just the side content alone that we have left to do. So stay tuned, we'll do that next time.